Hello and welcome to my video lecture on the use of the if control structure for data validation. So now we've got this index PHP file. We've got our PHP section right up here at top. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a variable. Let's set up a variable called interest. And we're going to say, hopefully, we're going to take this from a user. So now we have to test to see if this has valid data in it. Right now we're putting valid data in it. We're going to make it equal to 0, so at least we know it's numeric. And then we're going to see how to use an if control structure to do some tests on this. So first of all, we're going to set up an if statement. We're going to open up our parentheses and we're going to put something in here that's going to be evaluated. So the first thing we want to make sure is that somebody gave us a value for interest. And we use the empty function for that. That's going to be followed by curly braces. The curly braces denote that we are now in the executable block of the if statement, so that if empty, if the function empty returns true when being passed the interest variable, then we're going to hit the user with a message. And we're going to use a message variable to do that. And we'll set that equal to, our the interest cannot be empty, right? And actually, probably want to use apostrophes there. And I got my semicolon. So that's one thing we can test for. So let's test for a couple of other things. So we want to stop there with the with that if statement. And we'll do an else if to test something else. We'll open up parentheses, and then we'll test to see if this is not a number. And we use the is number function to test that. And we'll test that on interest. So again, we'll open up a curly brace. Oops, that's parentheses. Curly brace. Curly brace. And then we will, once again, put a message out there. Error, the interest rate must be a number, period. And I might as well put a period up here too. So we're going to do a couple of tests. We're going to see if the interest is empty. We're going to test to see if someone put a value in there that's not numeric. After that, we can do, any kind of tests. Else, if, investment, right? So now we'll actually do a value. So up until now we've been using functions, but now we can use comparison operators. There's a whole host of comparison operators that are out there, so we don't have time to go through them all. But we want to make sure that investment is greater than or equal to 0. So if it's not, if we got a 0 investment, or it's less than that, or it's a negative number, then we want to do something. So once again, we're going to hit them with a message. We'll close our curly brace. So in this case, error, the interest cannot be 0 or negative. And there we have it. So we've got our if statement doing a little bit of data validation to make sure that this user has given us valid data. Or we can hit them with an else statement. always like to have an else statement, especially here when the variable that we're using, message, will not have a value unless something happens in here. And we can say that, interest is valid. And that with a semicolon. So there you have it, a couple of tests to make sure that it's essentially data validation going on. We get a value entered by a user, and we're going to run through a couple of tests to see if it's valid. So the first thing we're going to test, see if it's empty. So let's see if we get the proper error message if this is actually empty. When I refresh it, we don't get any error message. No error message. That's because I'm not displaying an error message. So if I go down to my HTML, I want my HTML to display my error message. I'm going to add in a couple of breaks. And here I'm just going to echo out whatever is in message. So we'll save that. And then we'll go back to our browser and refresh this. And we get an error that the interest cannot be empty. And again, a much better error than some of those error messages you get from the system. So it's not, so right now it's empty. So let's change it to junk and see what happens. So we save that and we refresh this, and call to undefined function is number. What doesn't like about, oh, is numeric. There you go. That is a valid error. So is numeric. These function calls are going to kill me. So we're calling the is numeric function. I'm going to save that. And when we run that, the interest rate must be a number. So that's what we're expecting. And then if we change the investment to be 0, and we save that, and we refresh our browser, your state cannot be empty. Oh, did I not change? It equates, empty is evaluating the interest being 0 to being empty. So that's interesting, isn't it? So let's make it -1. And then we'll save that. And then we run that. And we've got an undefined variable investment. Doesn't it like about investment? Oh, I did investment instead of interest. Isn't that funny? Okay. So, don't know what was on my mind. So there, we've got interest. And I'm going to save that. Go back to my browser. Run that. The interest cannot be 0 or negative. In this case, we really can't just we can't just be testing for that. The interest rate cannot be empty or 0, since that actually satisfies that condition. So it cannot be negative. And we'll save that. So that would be an example of how to use an if control statement, control structure in PHP to do some data validation. And this kind of thing can get very, very large and very, very complex. But hopefully you've learned how to do that and you can use it in your code.